What's happening, Swanky fam? Welcome back to Discmas. Today is day 5, and we didn't want to go any further in Discmas without updating you guys about the changes coming to the Pro Tour in 2024, so let's get into it.
We wish you a Merry Discmas. We wish you a Merry Discmas. We wish you a Merry Discmas and a Happy New Year.
Some of you may be actually unfamiliar with the Pro Tour in general. If you've never watched the Pro Tour, just really briefly, the Disc Golf Pro Tour has several types of events, and the Pro Tour normally flows from late February, early March, and ends around October. They go all over the country, normally starting on the West Coast lately and moving east, sometimes going then back west and then back east. It's been a little bit disjointed. So yeah, last year we had 4 different types of events. We had silver events, which were the lowest, not even really a full Pro Tour event. Then we had a Pro Tour Elite Series event. That's your standard. Then your Elite Plus event, your playoff event, and your major event. There's a lot of different tiers in there. And so moving into 2024, we're getting a ton of clarity, and I personally love it. The biggest thing that's happening is that we are axing Silver Series. This is huge, and it's getting a lot of positive feedback. The reason it's huge, guys, if you haven't been watching the Pro Tour, the Silver Series, they're smaller events. They're on less prestigious courses for the most part. Either that or they're a brand new silver event, because the Pro Tour has been using silver events as sort of a trial ground for new Pro Tour events. Anyway, silver events have lower purses. They generally have weaker fields. They were often scheduled very poorly, because we'd have one right before a major, or one didn't make sense in the travel schedule for pros. So all in all, it just wasn't making sense. These silver events had, 1 or 2 of our top 10 names every week in and week out, and that just wasn't. It didn't make for good television. It didn't make sense for a lot of the pros to even attend them. They do offer half Pro Tour points. I think it's 50% of an average Pro Tour event. So if you were desperate for points to get into the championship at the end of the year, it was worth going to them. But that made it even weirder. Some people are going to this to try to get that edge, and some people aren't. So we're getting rid of them. Thank goodness. And the new structure of events looks like this. We have Pro Tour events, Pro Tour Plus events, playoff events, and majors. And it couldn't make more sense. It couldn't be more clear. Unless the Plus events were a little bit clearer. But let's just break down what's happening. So Pro Tour events are your baseline, and more than any other event, you'll have those. There are only 4 Plus events. Your standard events are going to be 3 rounds. They're likely on 1 course. Not too much is going on, but the Pro Tour Plus events are going to be 4 rounds. And a few of them are on multiple courses. Some of them are not. We have 4 of them. We have Waco as a Pro Tour Plus. We have Portland Open. We have Ledgestone, and we have D-Glow. I believe Ledgestone and D-Glow are going to be played on 1 course. D-Glow obviously on Toboggan, and Ledgestone going to be played MPO, Lake Eureka, and FPO Sunset Hills. And that's because of Champions Cup, and we'll get into that in a second. This one should be played on 2 courses, but we'll get into why it's not being played on 2 courses in a moment. And then Portland Open obviously played on 2 courses over there, and Waco is getting a 2nd course added to it, so it will be played on 2 courses. Now, these are some of Disc Golf's most prestigious events, so it does make sense that they are Elite Plus, and you're probably already thinking, wait, Reed, are they really? Is Waco really a prestigious event? And no, you got me. Waco, I don't understand. The other 3 make sense. Waco, I don't get that one. But hopefully this new course added to it makes it a better event, and we'll see some prestige added to that event. Also, there's just so many events in Texas. It's crazy. We'll talk about the schedule in a bit. But yeah, and then there's playoff events, and just like last year, we'll have 2 playoff events. After Worlds, we will go into a reduced field size based on the Pro Tour standings. So the first one's normally 100 to 120 players of those top in the point standings. They get to play the first playoff event, and then after that event, it's whittled down even further to 70 or 80 of the top players. So MVP Open and GMC will be those two playoff events. And then we have our majors. Let's jump into the majors. So there's a few major changes. First of all, Champions Cup has been all over the place. We all know about the tragic news with WR Jackson having to be basically taken down. That course no longer exists at the moment, and they are trying to build it back up, but it's not going to be ready in time for this year's Champions Cup. So at first they moved it. They changed the date to November, saying maybe we can be ready by November. And the pros hated that because that pushes all the majors to the back end of the schedule. So they said, okay, we could do it at Northwoods in, I forget when they originally moved it to, like June or something. And finally they moved it. It's still at Northwoods Black. They have moved it to April, its original time on the schedule, early in the season, the first major. It just makes sense there. And thank goodness, I think everybody's finally happy with its placement. And Northwood Black is close enough to WR Jackson in style. Obviously, Champions Cup, people want it to be the wooded major. I think that's even more important than the course. I think having one prestigious course would be nice, but as long as this major is played in the woods, I think people are going to still associate it with that style of golf, and it can retain some of its soul. I think that's what's most important here, and it's getting that. Northwoods Black is famously very difficult wooded course. Unfortunately, playing this major at Northwoods Black is forcing that course off of the Ledgestone event. I'm not sure why they don't just play it again or a different layout of it, but maybe they feel like having it twice. They're already going to play it for 4 rounds in April. So maybe they feel like that's just not worth doing to go back there, but regardless, they are not going to go back there. And Ledgestone will be played for MPO 4 rounds at Lake Eureka and FPO 4 rounds at Sunset Hills. I feel really bad for the FPO division. I feel like Sunset Hills is one of the weaker courses we play on the tour, and they got to play 4 rounds there at an Elite Plus event, or a Plus event. Sorry. So that's Champions Cup. Hopefully it's in a good place, and next year in 2025 we can go back to WR Jackson in my home state. I would really like that, but let me know what you think about the new schedule there. And then for Worlds is once again being played at a brand new, never before played, even on the tour, even a little bit. I say once again, this has probably never happened before, or at least it hasn't happened in a long time since disc golf's been more established. It's being played in Lynchburg, Virginia, at New London Tech, which is a very new course. I believe it opened in 2021, maybe late 2021. I could have been 2022. It is a new course. And then it's being played on a golf course in Lynchburg as well. So there's going to be 2 courses. Neither of these courses has ever been played on the Pro Tour before, even in a silver event. So this is very unusual, and you have to think this is the Paul Macbeth effect. He doesn't even live in Lynchburg anymore, but New London was designed by him, and it is getting a lot of social media attention from Foundation and from Brody and from Paul himself. Just that hub of creators that play there all the time gets it a lot of attention. So people know New London Tech. If this was not the case, if we didn't have a Paul designed course and a bunch of creators creating there all the time, I think people would be like, what are we doing going to 2 brand new courses never been played on the tour and putting Worlds there just like out of nowhere? A little bit weird, but yeah, definitely the Paul Macbeth effect. There's no other way to describe this. I'm personally excited. Like, they got me, I know New London Tech and I've never played there. And I know a lot of you guys are in the same boat with that. So we'll see. I'm excited about Worlds. I'm excited to get up to Lynchburg to play those courses before Worlds. So the last thing I really want to jump into is the silver events. I mentioned that we were going to talk about what they are becoming. So a new tour is replacing these silver events, and they're calling it the Q Series. And this is for qualifying for the Pro Tour. And it's going to be a lot of smaller events. I imagine a lot of the silver events that got cut will be added to this tour, and then a lot of B tiers and A tiers. I did see that B tiers can apply for this. If you have a B tier tournament that you would like to apply to be on the Q Series, I imagine it had to be a very well run tournament. for it to be a B tier and get into the Q series. But anyway, we're going to have players who have not acquired a tour card playing on this qualifying series to try to earn a tour card via point system. And I think that is the home. That is what Silver Series was always meant to be. Silver Series was great as a viewer to be able to watch disc golf when there wasn't a Pro Tour event, but it didn't make sense for our top of the top players to be there. And now we have a reason for these lower level players who don't have a tour card yet to grind out this Q series to try to get on the tour for the following year. It'll make great coverage for DGN. It will allow for the schedule to make way more sense for our traveling pros that already have their tour card. They don't have to go play this Q series. In fact, they probably shouldn't even be allowed to. I'm not sure if they can. They shouldn't be allowed to. It should be only for players that do not have a tour card to go out there and try to earn their way on the tour. And that is very exciting. Even more exciting than cutting Silver Series entirely is changing a Silver Series to this Q series. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this shakes up for the 2023 season, or for the 2024 season. So yeah, that is the Silver Series. So overall, guys, like pros and cons here. Pros, huge win. We got rid of the Silver Series. We made it into this beautiful new thing called the Q Series. Love that. Okay. A few other things like the new event, which I didn't even mention, the Florida Open, starting on the East Coast, allows us to just have this better flow. We're going to go start east, go west, and then come back east for the finish rather than doing a bunch of zigzagging. I think the schedule makes more sense. It's going to be cleaner. And starting in Florida in February or early March, whenever, it's just a great time to be in Florida. It's going to be a great time to play disc golf in Florida. The weather is going to be phenomenal. A lot of players do their off-season training in Florida so that they can keep playing year-round. So a lot of them will already be there. It just makes sense, I think. I think we should start seeing more tournaments in Florida. This is also the Paul Macbeth effect, because I believe the Florida Open's being played at the Throwdown the Mountain courses, which Paul Macbeth owns with Dylan Cease. So a little bit more Paul Macbeth effect for you, but still, I'm very excited to watch that tournament. And those that say that they've pulled this event out of nowhere, I disagree. It is on the Throwdown the Mountain courses, and that's been a tournament for quite some time. So to say that they're just taking this event and pulling it out of nowhere, I think that's a bit of an exaggeration. But starting in Florida did lead to a casualty on the tour, and that is the Las Vegas Challenge. They have removed it entirely from the schedule, and a lot of people are super bummed. That's a huge con from this. I understand it doesn't make a ton of sense in the context of the Pro Tour. There's 3 courses being played. It's not private, although they do a great job of making the disc golfers feel like they own the course while they're there, or so I've heard. But I can see why it's getting the axe. A lot of people are disappointed though. So LVC, maybe they should have worked to try to change it in some way. Maybe they did and they just couldn't make anything happen. I don't know. LVC getting the axe along with most of the California tour. We still have a few West Coast events. I think we have 3 this year. 3 of our 20 some odd event schedule on the West Coast. And we just have to keep pouring it out for the West Coast. I don't understand. Something makes it very difficult to run events in the West Coast. Maybe it's travel. Maybe it's, I don't even know what the cause is, but the West Coast is suffering. So if you are a West Coast disc golfer, comment down below why you think you guys are getting scammed right now, because it's insane the privilege of the East Coast and how many events we have in compared to you guys. East of the Mississippi is like 3/4 of the tour, and that's even with 4 Texas events, which is crazy. Like, why do we have that many Texas events? All right, guys, that is all of the changes coming to the tour in 2024. Before we wrap up, we are giving away a disc like we are every day here in Discmas. So today, day 5, we're giving away this Supreme EMAC Truth. This thing is sick, and we're going to be giving it away to you guys. So you got to do 2 things. You got to subscribe to the channel, and you got to fill out the Google form that's going to be in the description. So go ahead and do that to be entered to win this disc. And thank you guys so much for watching. Let us know in the comments what you guys think about the changes to the schedule. Is it good, bad? What do you think they should have done? And what are you hoping to see for future years? What changes do you think they should be making? Let us know. We'll see you tomorrow. Stay swanky.
Wish you a Merry Discmas. We wish you a Merry Discmas. We wish you a Merry Discmas and a Happy